But first, let us talk about what is going on at Colorado. And I can understand how it feels like this is a Colorado-friendly show. Well, that's because it is. Also, because we want to continue to push this story forward as well. Frankly, it is a big-time program, and it is going to be on a big-time network. Yes, upfronts were like Monday, right? But the news was that Texas Christian versus Colorado will be on Big Fox on September 2nd. Very excited about that. It's a homecoming for Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, as he is from the Dallas, where he lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But also 3 weeks ago, we were talking about, my goodness, not what they could be doing at Texas Christian, certainly not what they could be doing against Nebraska, or even what they could be doing in the Pac-12, but that, oh my God, 34 players had entered the transfer portal. Oh my. DEFCON 1 at Colorado. Never mind it. 2 dozen players, nearly 3 dozen players left Arizona State, Wisconsin, whatnot. Let's just talk about what's going on at Colorado and Coach Prime. All right, let's also talk about they added 24 players since those 34 have left, which means they're up to 76 scholarship players at Colorado, and that means they still got 9 left to give. And oh, by the way, among the people that decided to transfer into Colorado, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, and Cormani McClain, or did you forget? I'm getting kind of antsy about this because it feels at borderline unfair in the way that we're talking about how Prime has turned over the roster at Colorado, when everybody that knows from football will tell you he didn't have a choice. That team was 1-11 last year. You're not going to win football games with a team that's not that talented in a Pac-12 conference where you have to play USC, Utah, Oregon, Washington. And those are just the teams coming off the top of my head that won 10 or more games last year. Hello, right? Now, on top of that, I thought there was a really great interview in The Athletic that Bill O'Boyle gave in an interview, I should say. Their story was about the offensive line coach, right? That is Bill O'Boyle at Colorado. But the quote, and I'm going to give it its full due here, is worth your time. Okay. So Bill O'Boyle, talking to The Athletic, says, we might come down to the wire on a couple of guys this summer, but the way it's been going right now, I'm not worried. The media. We're all the media. You all, it's social media. All right. The media conveniently doesn't bring it up, but we placed a lot of guys already, and players are a lot better than what we had. He went on. I get it. Everybody wants us to fall on our faces. No doubt. We're getting pounded by other schools asking players, why are you going to Colorado? They are not established, etc. We know we have 5 million eyes on us, so we are not going to do anything out of line. But at the end of the day, when you play with that chip on your shoulder, you are a different cat. And those are the cats we want. We are going to get this thing done right. Hey, man, Coach Prime says a lot of things, right? But what he ends up saying is with character. It's on everything they do, right? They want to play with character. I don't understand how more people aren't actually enthused by this. And frankly, Prime is an old school coach, like some of y'all claim to love. I mean, he has taken no guff from no players. He is keeping it 100 and real. Everything you get, you earn, right? You eat because you are providing, not because somebody else is provided. And they are going to go get players that, frankly, are good. Like, I'm going to give you a list of some of the guys that have transferred into Colorado just over the last 6 months, right? Among them, Jaquez Robinson, who I got to know. There's actually an interview with Jaquez Robinson on the YouTube channel when he was thinking about Oklahoma, end up at Alabama. He's transferred to Colorado, right? Tarvarish Dawson, a wide receiver out of Auburn, who also clocked 10.58 in the 100 meters. To put that in perspective, right? Jalen Waddle ran 10.68 in high school, all right? And you know how fast Jalen Waddle is. Willie Gaines, a real great speedster from Jackson State, 27 passes caught, 446 yards receiving, 5 TDs. He averaged 16.5 yards per catch last year on an undefeated in regular season Jackson Tigers team, right? And then some hitters, right? We're talking about Florida State edge, Derek McClendon, who after 4 years at Florida State comes out at Colorado, having played 38 games, 61 tackles, 12.5 for loss, 7 sacks. My goodness. Last year, he had 5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, and 37 tackles, right? We got Vito Tisdale, Big V's son, also another dude that I have interviewed that you can go find on the channel. One of the things I was fired up about with Vito, his daddy is Big V. And Big V was fronting one of my favorite rap groups ever, Nappy Roots, baby. I really love me some Nappy Roots. Watermelon Chicken and Grits. If you know, and Vito can play. 39 tackles at Kentucky, missed 2022 due to injury. I expect him to figure into that safety rotation for Charles Kelly. Omarion Cooper, another Florida State guy, 6 foot, 188, played 20 games with 7 starts at Florida State. It feels like I'm giving you their resume. It's because I am, right? They've also added 4 offensive linemen and 4 defensive linemen just since April, all right? It's not as if you got a bunch of bums over here. And plus, like I said last week, there are over 400 players and from Power 5 universities in the portal. Prime only needed 19 of them when I talked last. He only needs 9 now to get to 85. We're not even in June. What is this noise about? You know, can we give some of the same noise to, say, USC that turns over the roster the last couple of years like you wouldn't, like we're going to talk about? No, because you know what Lincoln Riley was able to do at Oklahoma because you were paying attention to Oklahoma. Full stop. Y'all didn't care about Jackson State. You weren't watching Jackson State. You damn sure wasn't watching FCS football. North Dakota State goes and wins national championships. We got to tell you about it. So don't pretend to know something about how the man builds his program unless you've been following it for the last 3 years, like I have. All right. Let's go from that to transfer portals, winners and losers. Obviously, I've got Colorado as a winner here because, you know, you add Shedeur Sanders, Cormani McClain in the signing class, and then Travis Hunter as a transfer, you're winning. We would give that to Alabama. We would give that to Georgia. We're going to give it to Colorado, right? Others that won, USC, LSU, Oklahoma, Florida State, Notre Dame, Michigan. Look, some of this is just about who didn't leave. Like, I get that as you're listening to this, Logan Diggs committed to transfer to LSU as a running back for Notre Dame and had the most carries at Notre Dame last year, but he was not the best tailback at Notre Dame last year. That's a dude named Audric Estime, keep it 100. Other part about this is Harold Perkins ain't going nowhere. That's a win in the transfer portal. Harold Perkins might be the best defensive player in the SEC. He's going to be playing at LSU. Jared Verse at Florida State. He ain't go nowhere, okay? That's a dude that would have been a first-round draft pick had he chosen to come out this year, right? Sam Hartman decided to move to South Bend, where it's going to be him and, you know, the little leprechaun and Mark Freeman. I'm sorry. I've been to South Bend. I got feelings about it. I'm looking around going, there's no mall. What is there to do here? I'm sure producer Tyler's pulling out his hair going, RJ, I spent 4 years there. It's fine. It's me, right? And I'm a Oklahoma fan. We play like a champion. It's a whole thing. You understand. Producer Tyler does the show. Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards didn't go anywhere. That's how Michigan is winning. You got 2 tailbacks that could start for anybody, anywhere, anytime, who decided, no, we'll stay here. We'll run it back. We want to get back to the college football playoff a 3rd time. We would like to beat up on Ohio State a 3rd time. We would like to win a Big Ten championship a 3rd time, right? Oklahoma added some studs on defensive line. Thank God for that. Deshaun McCullough, go play some cheetah, right? That's kind of like the 2nd level linebacker, but coming out of Indiana where he played end. That's how athletic Deshaun McCullough is. Rondell Bothroyd coming out of Wake Forest is a guy that could have gone into the NFL draft. Jacob Lacey, a defensive tackle coming out of Notre Dame. Thank you very much, Notre Dame. We would like to have you defensive lineman. Thank you so much. I was looking at Jerry Tillery years ago going, damn, can we get one of them? Like, that dude was a monster, just destroying us. And I still hold a grudge for 2012 and Manti Te'o and the whole thing. Now, for USC, I would say Eric Gentry didn't go anywhere. I know he got injured last year, but Eric Gentry was outstanding linebacker for SC and frankly anywhere. And at his height of 6'6", my God, the idea of that dude playing in the middle of your defense as opposed to back into your defense or even wide receiver or end, that's outstanding. But then again, let's talk about how USC has turned over the roster a la Colorado. So last year, Lincoln Riley turned over the roster with 21 dudes, right? They went 4-8 the year before he got there. He turned over with 21 new dudes. They win 11 games to make Cotton Bowl. Get beat by Tulane. Get beat by Utah. But win the Heisman. That's something. Got a Heisman trophy. Not like Oklahoma ain't got 7 of those. We also got Dorian Singer transferring in at wide receiver, but I also need to add here, you lose Kyle Ford to UCLA, excuse me. Gary Bryant to Oregon. So you got to go get the dude that had 1,100 yards receiving from Arizona. You also add South Carolina running back Marshawn Lloyd, who was outstanding for South Carolina last year. Oklahoma State linebacker Mason Cobb, UGA defensive lineman Bear Alexander, Texas A&M defensive lineman Anthony Lucas, Purdue defensive lineman Jack Sullivan, Georgia State defensive lineman Jamil Muhammad. Feels like Prime ain't the only person that went into the portal to go get dudes. But somehow you feel better about him going to South Central than you didn't do going to Boulder, which is not a sentence that I expected to utter ever. And yet, here we are. Those are transfer portal winners. What you lost, not really losers. It's just You lost some players that you're still looking to replace in the portal. Among those, Michigan State, which has a real problem at quarterback. I don't want to sugarcoat that. You're asking a lot of Noah Kim and Caden Hauser if you think they're going to replace Peyton Thorne, who ended up going to Auburn. That's a lot. Set aside Keon Coleman, who was a combat receiver out there, man. 758 yards that he was accounted for. I think 78 passes caught as a sophomore last year. And in South Carolina, you lose Jaheim Bell, who was something like Deebo Samuel for them. Really interesting cat. 231 rush yards because he had to play tailback when Marshawn Lloyd got hurt. And he also had 261 receiving yards. And you look at him, yeah, you can find all sorts of ways that he's going to be outstanding at Florida State. That's how they got better. Plus, they got their Oklahoma killer back in Johnny Wilson, who was just beating the hell out of Oklahoma secondary in the Cheez-It Bowl. I'm going to stop. Austin Stogner also chose to transfer back to Oklahoma, which would have been your number 2 tight end. So both your top tight ends at South Carolina, you got to replace. You got to replace your starting tailback. That's hard. That's really hard. I mentioned Michigan State and then Oklahoma State. You lost 16 scholarship players, 9 on offense. I mean, and it's a lot that Mike Gundy's going to have to replace over there. Quarterback Spencer Sanders went to Ole Miss. Offensive lineman Caleb Etienne went to BYU. Wide receiver Bryson Green went to Wisconsin. Wide receiver Braylon Presley went to Tulsa. Wide receiver Stephon Johnson went to Houston. Running back Dominic Richardson went to Baylor. Wide receiver John Paul Richardson went to Texas Christian. I mentioned Cobb went to SC. Trace Ford went to Oklahoma across the Bedlam line. Hello. Safety Thomas Harper went to Notre Dame. The defensive back DeMarco Jones went to Tulsa. I mean, Jabbar Muhammad went to Washington. It's not like you just lost dudes. You lost dudes that everybody else wants. That's tough, man. You're talking about 16 guys? That's what? Quarter of your roster? And 9 on your offense? That's just a lot to overcome there. And those are the dudes that I chose to write down and tell you about. So I expect Mike Gundy will pull a rabbit out of a hat because that's all Mike Gundy has been doing since he's been the head coach at Oklahoma State. He takes dudes like Wes Lunt and wins football games. Takes dudes like Clint Shelf and goes and wins football games, right? If you don't know who I'm talking about, that's my point right there, all right? Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.